You book a flight, you pick your seat, you check in, and somewhere in the back of your mind, you assume you know roughly what you're getting. A standard plane, a few hours, and hopefully no middle seat. But here's what you probably never think about. Who decided which plane would be there in the first place? Not which airline, not which route, which specific aircraft. Out of a fleet of hundreds, sometimes thousands, of planes, why is a Boeing 737 pulling up to your gate in Denver? And not an Airbus A320? Why is the flight to Cancun on a wide-body jet, and the one to Pittsburgh on a tiny regional hopper? The answer involves economics, physics, mathematics, and a level of logistical complexity that most passengers never see. Let's break it down. The simple answer is, airlines try to match the number of available seats to the expected demand for a given route on a given day. That part is intuitive. You don't send a 400-seat jumbo jet to fly 40 passengers from Kansas City to Memphis, and you don't squeeze 300 travelers onto a 50-seat regional jet for a transatlantic crossing. The plane has to fit the crowd, but demand is just the starting point, because the moment you look past it, the complexity explodes. The first hard constraint airlines run into, one that demand alone can't override, is range. Every aircraft can only fly so far before it needs more fuel than it can carry. A Boeing 737-800 has a maximum range of around 3,100 miles. That's plenty for most domestic routes in the United States or Europe. But try to fly that plane from New York to Tokyo, a journey of over 6,700 miles, and you physically cannot do it. It's not a scheduling problem or a cost problem. The plane simply won't make it. This is why certain routes are locked to certain aircraft. Long-haul international flights, London to Singapore, Los Angeles to Sydney, New York to Dubai, require wide-body jets like the Boeing 777, the Airbus A350, or the Boeing 787 Dreamliner. These planes are built with massive fuel capacity and long-range engines specifically designed for routes that would be impossible for smaller aircraft. On the other extreme, short regional hops, think Boston to Burlington or Los Angeles to Fresno, often use regional jets like the Embraer E175 or the Bombardier CRJ series. These planes seat between 50 and 100 passengers and are optimized for short, frequent trips. And then there are the edge cases that highlight just how specific aircraft choices can be. Take the United Airlines Island Hopper, a modified Boeing 737-800 that hops between tiny Pacific islands, including Micronesia and the Marshall Islands. The aircraft has extra durable tires for short, hard runways and modified engines protected against the corrosive, salty Pacific air. No other standard commercial plane can operate that route. So range isn't just about distance, it's about the entire operating environment. Once range is accounted for, the next major factor is economics, and airlines are ruthlessly precise about this. The key metric is called cost per available seat mile, or CASM. It measures how much it costs to fly one seat 1 mile. Airlines obsess over this number because it's the fundamental unit of airline profitability. A plane that burns too much fuel, requires too much maintenance, or sits on the ground too long between flights is a drain on the bottom line, even if it fills every seat. This is why airlines don't just ask, "Does this plane have enough seats?" They ask, what is the cheapest way to carry this many passengers this distance at this time of year with the revenue we expect to earn? Fuel burn is a massive part of that equation. Older aircraft like the Boeing 767 or the Airbus A330 burn significantly more fuel per seat than newer models like the 787 or the A350. So when airlines have both options in their fleet, they often reserve the newer, more efficient planes for the highest frequency routes, the ones where fuel savings compound every single day. Maintenance is another critical cost. Airlines prefer to keep aircraft near maintenance bases, facilities with the right tools, the right parts, and certified technicians. Sending a rare aircraft type to a remote station where it can't be serviced creates real operational risk. If something goes wrong, there's no backup plane nearby, no spare parts on site, and potentially hundreds of stranded passengers. Here's where airline strategy diverges in a really interesting way. Some airlines, particularly low-cost carriers, make a deliberate choice to operate only one aircraft type. Southwest Airlines is the most famous example. Their entire fleet is made up of Boeing 737 variants. That's it. No Airbus, no regional jets, no wide bodies, just different versions of the same basic plane. This might sound limiting, but the advantages are enormous. Any pilot at Southwest can fly any plane in the fleet. Any mechanic is certified for every aircraft. Spare parts are universal. Training costs are slashed. Ground crews know exactly what to expect. Studies suggest that single-type fleets reduce overall operating costs by 8 to 12% compared to diverse fleets. In an industry where profit margins are often in the low single digits, that difference is the entire business model. But the trade-off is inflexibility. Southwest can't fly non-stop from Los Angeles to Tokyo because the 737 doesn't have the range. They can't offer a premium wide-body experience on high-yield business routes. The simplicity that saves money also limits the network. Legacy carriers like Delta, United, American, or Lufthansa take the opposite approach. Their fleets can span 8 to 12 different aircraft types, regional jets, narrow-body planes, wide-body jets, ultra-long-range aircraft. This diversity is expensive to maintain, but it lets them match exactly the right plane to exactly the right route. A 50-seat regional jet to a small city, a 180-seat narrow-body for a busy domestic corridor, a 300-seat twin-aisle for a transatlantic crossing. Every route gets the tool that fits it best. So far, we've been talking about individual routes, but here's where it gets truly complex. Airlines don't assign aircraft to routes one at a time. They plan entire networks, days or weeks in advance, where every plane is part of a rotation, a chain of flights that needs to work together. A plane that lands in Atlanta at 9 p.m. needs to be positioned for its first departure the next morning. That might mean a quick overnight turn in Atlanta or a positioning flight to another hub. The economics of one leg depend on the economics of every other leg in that plane's daily rotation. Planners call this the fleet assignment problem, and it is one of the most computationally intensive challenges in commercial aviation. Airlines feed data into sophisticated software systems, demand forecasts, aircraft availability, maintenance windows, crew scheduling, airport slot constraints, and algorithms work through millions of possible combinations to find the assignment that maximizes overall network profitability. And these systems work constantly. An airline the size of Delta or United is managing nearly 1,000 aircraft, tens of thousands of daily flights, and demand that shifts by the hour. A model that produces an optimal fleet assignment today may be obsolete tomorrow when a storm in Chicago cascades across half the network. Which brings us to why your flight, the one you booked 3 months ago, sometimes shows up with a completely different plane than the one listed on your ticket. Equipment swaps happen constantly. A mechanical issue grounds a plane hours before departure. A weather system reroutes aircraft across the country. A sudden spike in demand on a connecting route pulls a larger aircraft away from yours. In these moments, airlines don't just cancel flights, they scramble. Operations centers at major carriers are staffed around the clock by dispatchers who make real-time decisions about which aircraft goes where. They're balancing the disruption already in the network against the cascading effects of every substitution they make. Swap a plane here, and you've just created a problem 3 gates down. It's like playing chess with 1,000 pieces on a board that keeps changing shape. And sometimes the result is that a 180-seat Airbus A321 shows up for a route that was supposed to have a 130-seat Boeing 737. Or vice versa. The passenger doesn't see the logic. They just see a different plane. But behind that change is a real-time optimization decision made under pressure. The next time you walk down a jet bridge and see the plane waiting for you, whether it's a gleaming wide body or a modest regional jet, there's a lot more behind that choice than you might think. Someone modeled the demand for this route months in advance. Someone ran the fuel burn numbers against the ticket revenue. Someone scheduled maintenance for the aircraft type that fits this market. And an algorithm, guided by human planners, solved a combinatorial puzzle involving hundreds of planes and thousands of flights to make sure that on this specific day, at this specific gate, the right plane was ready. Air travel can feel routine, but the infrastructure behind even a single flight is amazing.